Christmas morning in Burlington always looked like something out of a postcard, but that year the beauty felt cruel. Snow lay untouched on the porch railings, the lights along the gutters blinked softly, and inside the living room the tree glowed warm and golden. I watched my little sister Mia tear into her biggest present, red wrapping paper, exploding like confetti. When the white box emerged pristine and sealed, she screamed, "A brand new MacBook." My mother clapped her hands, already crying happy tears. "You deserve it, sweetheart. You've had such a tough year." Frank beamed proudly and kissed her forehead. Mia gasped, covering her mouth, overwhelmed at the sight of the silver laptop gleaming under the lights. Then it was my turn. I opened the thin envelope with my name written in a rushed scrawl. Inside was a card blank, white empty, not a word, not a signature, not even a cheap printed message, a completely blank card. My mother nodded approvingly, as if this was perfectly reasonable. "Be grateful for what you have, Ava. Not everyone gets gifts." My throat tightened. In the background, Mia hugged her MacBook like she'd won the lottery. While everyone laughed, I bent down to pick up stray scraps of wrapping paper and saw something slip from Mia's pile. A second envelope with my name on it, shoved under her discarded bows like they didn't want me to see it. That was the moment something inside me froze. By the time the sun went down, the decision was already made. At 2 a.m., while the house slept beneath its perfect Christmas lights, I would leave them a gift. And by dawn, they would be screaming. The room smelled of cinnamon rolls and pine needles, the same comforting scent every Christmas. Since I was a child, but it felt different this year. Colder, smaller. Or maybe that was just me sitting cross-legged by the tree while Mia basked in her new electronics like a holiday princess. My mother fussed over her, smoothing Mia's hair, adjusting the ribbon on her robe. "She's been under so much pressure," Mom kept saying. Pressure, from what I wondered silently. Mia didn't have a job. She hadn't finished community college. She spent most days scrolling TikTok, talking about which haul she'd film next. Yet somehow she'd convinced everyone she was the child who needed the most. Frank handed me a mug of cocoa that smelled like powdered mix and guilt. "You okay, kiddo?" he asked with a forced warmth. I gave him an automatic smile because that's what Ava Calder did. I survived, I adjusted, I didn't cause trouble. That was the role my family had assigned me years ago, and I'd played it so well that even now on Christmas morning they expected me to accept anything without complaint. Mia held the MacBook up to the tree lights, admiring the way the aluminum surface reflected gold. "This is insane," she squealed, bouncing on the couch. "I can finally edit videos on something that isn't ancient." Mom nodded proudly, glowing with validation. "You deserve nice things, honey. You work so hard." I nearly choked on my cocoa. Mia had quit her last job after 3 weeks because the vibes were off. Meanwhile, I had been the one quietly sending $1,200 every month to help the family get through a rough patch. A rough patch that somehow lasted 3 full years. A rough patch that had apparently cleared up enough for them to buy a MacBook, but not enough for my mother to remember to write even a single sentence in my card. I held the blank card in my hands, trying not to let it tremble. The paper was smooth, cheap, the kind that came in a pack of 50. Mia leaned over and peeked at it. "Oh," she said, shrugging. "Guess Mom forgot to write inside. She's been so busy planning everything for me." She giggled and opened her new laptop, already setting it up like Christmas. Hadn't just slapped me across the face. Mom walked past me with an armful of discarded wrapping paper. "Don't pout, Ava. Christmas isn't about gifts. Besides, you're older. You don't need much." She said it lightly, almost sweetly, but her tone carried that familiar stinging truth. Mia was the center. I was the support beam. I noticed the hidden envelope again, nearly buried beneath the pile of bows and shiny paper. My name was written on it, my full name. Something my mother never used unless the matter was serious. A knot formed in my stomach. I pulled it out quietly just as Mia squealed again, hugging her laptop. I slipped the envelope into my sweater pocket, saving it for later sensing it would be better to open it when no one was watching. The morning dragged on as they posed for pictures. Mia made everyone gather around her new laptop for reaction videos. I stood in the background, trying to smile, trying not to feel the hollow, icy ache filling my chest. Every year, the favoritism grew louder. But something about the blank card, its emptiness, its carelessness cut deeper than any mismatch of gifts ever had. When brunch was finally served, I excused myself under the guise of needing fresh air. I walked out onto the porch, breathing in the cold Vermont air, watching snowflakes spiral down like tiny pieces of quiet mercy. I took out the hidden envelope, hands shaking. Inside was a single piece of paper, a form, a refinancing notice. My jaw clenched. My mother had put my name on something again. I folded it back up, slipped it into my pocket, and stared through the frosted glass at the three people laughing around the table as if nothing in the world was wrong. As if my life hadn't been the invisible foundation they stepped on. As if the sacrifices I made weren't worth even a line of ink inside a Christmas card. Something cracked inside me. Not loudly, not dramatically, but with the silent, irreversible finality of ice splitting under weight. That night, the tree lights blinked softly as everyone drifted into their holiday food comas. I packed my things carefully, a few clothes, my charger, my toiletries. I placed the envelope I'd found in my mother's office last week, the one that proved everything under the Christmas tree, where they'd be sure to see it. Their real gift. I stood in the living room one last time looking at the stockings on the mantel, the twinkling lights, the ornaments we'd collected over the years. It should have hurt more. Instead, I felt the lightest I had in years. At 2 a.m., while the world slept under its blanket of snow, I stepped out the front door, locked it quietly behind me, and walked to my car. I didn't leave a note. I didn't leave explanations. Just the truth wrapped in an envelope waiting under the tree. By sunrise, the screaming would start. I woke to the sound of my phone, vibrating violently against the wooden nightstand in the tiny cabin I'd rented outside town. At first, I thought it was the alarm I'd forgotten to turn off. But then I realized the sun wasn't even up yet. A soft gray pre-dawn light filtered through the frosted windows. My breath fogged in the cold air as the phone continued buzzing again and again and again. 37 missed calls flashed across the screen in frantic red numbers. Mom, Frank, Mia. Unknown numbers. Voicemails stacked on top of each other like warning sirens. I didn't listen to any of them. Instead, I sat on the edge of the bed hugging my knees while the cabin's silence wrapped around me like a thin, fragile blanket. Outside, snow drifted softly between the pines. Inside, my heartbeat hammered under my ribs. I'd left the house at 2 a.m, watched my childhood home shrink in the rearview mirror, and didn't allow myself to think about what would happen when they found the envelope under the tree. Now, judging by the 37 missed calls, they'd found it. A cold wind rattled the window. My phone lit up again, another incoming call. I let it ring out. Only when it went silent did I finally take a slow breath and try to imagine their faces when they saw what I'd left behind. I pictured Mom first finding the unassuming envelope resting between the glittering boxes. She probably assumed it was a belated thank you note from one of her bakery clients or another gift for Mia that she'd forgotten to display. Then she would have opened it, pulling out the clipped stack of bank statements, each one neatly highlighted in yellow, each transfer labeled Mortgage Calder Residence. Month after month after month, 3 years of my life. 3 years of $1,200 taken from my paycheck as quietly and consistently as snow melting into ground. 3 years of me skipping vacations, borrowing tired secondhand furniture, and convincing myself that family sacrifice meant something. I imagined the moment my mother realized that every dollar she'd spent on holiday decorations, bakery upgrades, Mia's spa days, and that brand new MacBook had come from me. I imagined the scream, and judging by the missed calls, I hadn't exaggerated. When the phone started buzzing again, I finally turned it face down and pushed it away. I wasn't ready. Not yet. Instead, I got dressed, pulled on my boots, and stepped outside. The air was razor cold, slicing clean through thought and memory. My breath puffed like smoke as I walked the narrow trail that led to the frozen lake. A few hours of quiet. That was all I wanted. But peace didn't last long. By the time I returned to the cabin, the phone had gone from vibrating to blinking incessantly with notifications. New voicemails, new texts, fresh accusations, I was sure. I exhaled slowly, bracing myself, then tapped one. Mom's voice filled the room, shaky and tearful. "Ava, we found your note. I don't understand what you mean, we're just confused. Please call me back." I deleted it. The next one made my stomach clench. "Ava, this is completely uncalled for," she snapped, her tone shifting like ice cracking. "Embarrassing. After everything we've done for you, this is how you repay us." I deleted that one too. Frank's messages were calmer but somehow sharper. "Ava, you need to come home. You've overreacted." "Yes, maybe the gifts were uneven, but we can talk about that." "But what you did, leaving like that." That Ava call me immediately. Then Mia. Her voice was shrill and furious. "What the hell is wrong with you? Mom's been crying all morning. You ruined Christmas, Ava. You're jealous. That's what this is. You're jealous of my MacBook and you're trying to make Mom look bad." My chest tightened. Jealousy. That was the story they were going to run with. I dropped the phone onto the table, feeling something inside me harden into stone. A few hours passed before curiosity got the better of me. I decided to check the envelope I'd recovered from Mia's gift pile the night before. I hadn't looked at it after leaving the house. I'd been too focused on escaping before someone woke up. I pulled the envelope out of my coat pocket and slid the paper free. The refinancing document stared back at me like a quiet accusation. My name typed neatly at the top. A signature that looked like mine, except it wasn't. Not truly. It was the version of my signature that existed 10 years ago, back when Mom kept my driver's license paperwork safe in her files. My breath shook. The edges of the paper trembled in my hands. They had refinanced the house, and they had tied my name to it. The document wasn't the full version. It was just a cover sheet, the part that bore the new loan information and cosigner names. But it was enough to tell me something had gone terribly wrong behind my back. Terribly deliberate. My stomach sank as memories flooded in the times Mom asked me for scans of my ID for insurance, the times Frank needed me to reconfirm an old signature for the bakery's parking permit, the times they insisted on keeping my personal documents in their office just in case. Just in case. In case of what. I set the paper down, staring at it as if it might rearrange itself into something less horrifying. My phone buzzed again. This time it wasn't my family. A number I didn't recognize. No voicemail, no text. A second call came a minute later. I ignored it again, pacing the small space between the bed and the tiny kitchenette. But when a third call came, same number, I finally picked up. "Hello?" My voice sounded strangely small. A brief pause. Then a crisp, professional voice answered. "Good morning. May I speak with Miss Ava Calder?" "Yes, this is she. This is Green Lake Mortgage Services. We're calling regarding some urgent activity on your account." My blood turned to ice. "My account," I whispered. "Yes, we've been trying to reach you. It's concerning the refinancing of the Calder residence. We need to verify some details about your involvement." I felt the room tilt. My involvement. Another pause. "Miss Calder, are you unaware that you're listed as the primary liable party?" The world narrowed to a pinpoint. All I could hear was the faint hum of the heater and the distant rush of wind outside. The representative continued, her tone now cautious. "We're also calling because we received a notice of missing payments and a request for a payment reversal, which appeared to come from your mother's number. We need to confirm whether this was authorized by you." The edges of my vision blurred. They had changed the mortgage. They had used my name, and now they were scrambling to fix it without me. The representative asked a series of questions: my address, my last known contribution, my signature verification. My answers came out slow, thick, as if I were speaking through snow. When the call ended, I stared at the wall, unable to move. 3 years. 3 years of me helping them temporarily. 3 years of never asking questions. 3 years of believing their lies, that they were struggling, that they needed me, that they were grateful. And all along they hadn't been struggling. They had been planning. My hands shook as I crossed the room and grabbed my coat. I needed air. Space. Something that wasn't the suffocating truth unraveling itself in front of me. I stepped outside just as a gust of wind whipped fresh snow across the porch. I gripped the railing, staring into the forest beyond the cabin. A pulse drummed in my ears, hot and relentless. They had screamed because they'd seen the statements I left behind, but they hadn't begun to scream for the real reason. They didn't know what else I had found. They didn't know what the bank had just told me. They didn't know that everything they'd built on my back was about to collapse. I closed my eyes, breathing in the frozen air until it burned. This wasn't the end of the story. It was the beginning of the fallout. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't the one who would be paying for it. The cabin was quiet enough that I could hear the snow slipping off the branches outside, soft thumps against the frozen ground. I sat at the small kitchen table, staring at the refinancing document again, tracing the printed letters of my name with a numb fingertip. My signature, my old signature, curled at the bottom like a ghost of the girl I used to be. 17-year-old Ava. The girl Mom insisted needed her parents to manage her paperwork. The girl who didn't question when Mom kept every important document in a safe place. The girl who didn't know what she would lose by trusting too easily. My phone buzzed again. I didn't want to look, but I did. 20 more texts had appeared, stacking themselves like falling dominoes across the screen. One from Mom stood out in all caps: "Call me immediately. This is an emergency." Another from Frank: "The bank is saying weird things. We need you to fix this. Fix this." Of course. And Mia: "Ava, stop ignoring us. This isn't funny." I locked the phone and shoved it away. A fresh wave of exhaustion rolled over me and I collapsed back against the creaky wooden chair. I felt hollow, like my body was trying to shut down before my brain could process anything else. But processing was unavoidable. Every time I blinked, scenes flickered behind my eyelids like some sick highlight reel. Mom calling the MacBook well-deserved. Frank saying I didn't need gifts. Mia gushing while I held a blank card with nothing inside. The refi document with my name stamped on it like a brand. It didn't feel accidental. It felt orchestrated. A quiet knock startled me upright. For a split second, dread shot through me. Had they found me already? But when I checked the window, it was only the cabin owner bringing extra firewood. I thanked him, waited for his footsteps to crunch away, and let out a shaky breath. I wasn't ready for real human interaction, and certainly not ready for my family. I carried the firewood inside, stacking it next to the stove. My hands were stiff from the cold, but the motion grounded me. The pine smell, the scrape of bark, the dry crackle of kindling it, reminded me that I was still here. Still myself. Still capable of standing on my own feet. It took nearly an hour for my nerves to settle, and when I finally did check my phone again, the messages had changed tone. "Mom, Ava, we saw the statements. Those were private. You invaded our privacy. Frank, you misunderstood the refinancing. We can explain it when you come home." Home. The word hit me like a dull blade. After everything, that house didn't feel like home anymore. It felt like a stage where I'd been cast as the responsible daughter, scripted to fix everything while smiling politely. I paced the cabin, each breath puffing out in cold little bursts. The heater had stopped a while ago, leaving the air thin and biting. I wrapped the blanket around my shoulders and forced myself to sit back down, opening the envelope again. The refinancing summary listed the new loan total, the interest rate, the cosigner obligations. My eyes snagged on one line: primary responsible party Ava Calder. It took a minute for the meaning to land. When it did, a hard shiver ran down my spine. They hadn't just put my name on the loan. They'd made me the one legally liable if anything went wrong. Another memory flashed, Mom telling me, "You're stronger, Ava. You can handle more." It wasn't a compliment. It was a justification. My jaw clenched as the truth settled like frost in my bones. They didn't just lean on me, they depended on me. Expected me to carry the weight of every mistake quietly, obediently. The phone buzzed again. I ignored it. Another voicemail. Then another. At some point I realized I was shaking not from the cold but from something deeper: rage, hurt. Years of swallowed resentment rising like steam under a sealed lid. I needed answers. So I did something I hadn't done in a long time. I pulled out my laptop, opened my email archives, logged into old accounts I hadn't touched in years. I searched keywords related to the house, the bakery, the mortgage. I looked for anything Mom might have forwarded, any fleeting notification I might have overlooked. It didn't take long. Buried deep in my inbox under important documents was an email from Green Lake Mortgage dated nearly 2 years ago. It wasn't addressed to me directly. Mom had forwarded it with the subject line, "For your information, nothing you need to worry about." Inside was an authorization summary. My name was not only attached to the house, it was attached to the bakery building too. My stomach dropped. They'd tied me to the business. A business I didn't work in. A business I didn't own. A business I barely even visited unless Mom begged for help covering a bill. A hollow sound escaped my mouth, something between a laugh and a sob. I hadn't escaped a Christmas disaster. I'd escaped a financial time bomb. I pushed away from the table, pacing faster, now the edges of fear turning sharp. The phone lit up again, this time with a voicemail from an unknown number. Against my better judgment, I played it. A male voice. Professional. "This message is for Miss Calder. This is a courtesy notice regarding mortgage delinquency for the property at I." Stopped the message. I couldn't listen. Not yet. Not alone. For a while I stood frozen in the center of the cabin, staring at nothing. The weight of every document, every missed sign, every quiet sacrifice pressed on my chest until breathing felt like swallowing snow. Then the phone buzzed with a name I hadn't expected. Mia. It wasn't a voicemail. It wasn't a call. It was a text. A single line. "Mom is freaking out. She said you might try to twist the story. Did you do something?" I stared at the message for a long time, cold spreading through me in slow, deliberate waves. I started typing, then deleted it. Typed something else, deleted again. Eventually, I wrote the truth. "You need to ask Mom what she's keeping from you." The dots appeared, then disappeared, then appeared again. "Finally," Mia replied. "Can you at least tell me why the bank called her secondary signer? She's losing it." I closed my eyes. Secondary signer, which meant they had put my name first, which meant they hadn't just taken advantage of me. They'd made me the foundation of every single one of their decisions. A mix of nausea and fury twisted in my gut as I typed back, "Because she made me primary without telling me." The dots didn't appear this time. For 10 minutes, nothing. No reply. No calls. Just dead quiet. Then the phone rang. Mia. I didn't answer. She called again. Still no. On the third attempt I picked up. Her voice trembled. "Ava, what did you leave under the tree?" Mom won't stop screaming. "Frank is calling the bank non-stop, and she's saying you're trying to destroy us." "Destroy them?" I almost laughed, a wild, bitter sound. "No," I whispered. "I just gave her the truth." Mia's breath hitched on the other end. "Ava, what's going on?" For a moment I imagined telling her everything. The refinancing, the cosigner lies, the fake signature, the mortgage delinquency, the email from the bank calling me the primary liable party. But I couldn't, not yet. Not until I knew whether she was willing to hear me or just defend them like always. "Mia," I finally said, voice shaking, "you need to start asking questions. Because you're not the only one she's been lying to. Silence. Mom is freaking out. She said you might try to twist the story. Did you do something? I stared at the message for a long time, cold spreading through me in slow, deliberate waves. I started typing, then deleted it. Typed something else, deleted again. Eventually, I wrote the truth. You need to ask Mom what she's keeping from you. The dots appeared, then disappeared, then appeared again. When the call ended, I set the phone down and leaned back, staring at the ceiling. This wasn't just favoritism anymore. This wasn't just emotional manipulation. This wasn't just one bad Christmas. This was planned, deliberate, layered. And if I didn't get ahead of it, the fallout would swallow me whole. I pulled the blanket tighter around myself as the heater clicked back on, filling the cabin with a faint hum. Something told me the real storm hadn't even started yet. Snow drifted in slow circles outside the cabin window, soft enough to look peaceful, but heavy enough to promise another storm. I sat on the couch with my knees pulled to my chest, staring at the refinancing papers spread across the coffee table. Every time I looked at my name typed neatly next to primary responsible party, my heart clenched in a new, sharper way. My whole life I'd assumed that being the reliable one meant I was safe, that being good meant I couldn't be blamed. But good girls with steady jobs and quiet demeanors made the perfect targets because no one ever questioned when the weight was handed to them. My phone buzzed again. This time it wasn't another voicemail from Mom or Frank or Mia. It was a text from Green Lake Bank. Important. We need to verify recent activity. Please call us. I dropped the phone like it was hot. The last call from the mortgage rep had already cracked something open. I wasn't sure I had the emotional stamina for another blow today. But before I could even breathe, another message appeared, short and clinical. We have detected inconsistencies in the last refinancing submission. I stared at the screen. Inconsistencies. It was a small word for something that could ruin a person's life. I wrapped the blanket tighter around myself and forced my mind to go still long enough to think. The envelope I'd found yesterday wasn't the whole story. It was the crack in the wall revealing everything behind it. What else had been done with my name? How deep did this go? How many things had I signed for the family when I was too young to understand? I tried to stand, but my legs felt unsteady, as if every bit of emotional weight from the past 3 years had condensed into my bones. I needed to move just long enough to breathe. I grabbed my coat, shoved my feet into my boots, and stepped out into the cold. The air bit at my cheeks, waking me like a slap of ice. The world outside was silent except for the distant rustling of pine branches. I walked slowly toward the tree line, letting the snow crunch under my feet. The cabin owner's dog, an old golden retriever named Murphy, appeared from behind a drift and trotted beside me like he understood something was wrong. I rested my hand on his fur, grateful for something warm that didn't ask questions. After 20 minutes of walking aimlessly through the trees, I found myself at the edge of the frozen lake again. Still, silent, unforgiving. The surface gleamed like polished steel. I wrapped my arms around myself as the wind whipped across the ice and stung my eyes. I had always thought of home as the place I returned to when I was tired or overwhelmed. A safe house, a soft spot to land. I'd never imagined my family could become the ones I needed protection from, the ones who could hurt me deeper than strangers because they knew exactly where my breaking points were. My phone vibrated again. This time I didn't ignore it. I pulled it from my pocket and saw another text, this one, from a number I recognized instantly. Pastor Thomas. He'd married Mom and Frank, baptized Mia, buried our grandmother. A man who'd always had a gentle voice and warm smile. A man who never called me out of the blue. His message was short. Ava, your mother reached out. She seems distressed. Are you safe? My breath caught. Safe. The question felt heavier than it should have. I typed slowly, I'm safe. I just needed space. Before I could put my phone away, another message popped up. Your mother believes you've misunderstood something important. She's worried. I stared at the text for a long time, letting its edges cut into me. She always worried like that, only when her comfort was threatened. Not when I was drowning under bills, not when I sent her half my paycheck, not when I sacrificed opportunities to help the family, not when I received a blank Christmas card. No, she worried now because I had finally walked away. I typed back, "It's more complicated than that. Thank you for checking." Before he could reply, I turned off my phone again. I couldn't handle more voices telling me to go back. Not when going back meant stepping into a trap I didn't see being built around me. The sky had started to darken by the time I returned to the cabin. I dusted snow off my coat and set it near the heater to dry. My fingers still tingled from the cold as I made a cup of tea. I sat on the couch, wrapping my hands around the mug, letting the steam warm my face. As the tea cooled, I made myself look again at the stack of documents from Mom's office papers I'd found while helping her pack Christmas stockings 2 days earlier. She'd forgotten to lock the drawer that time. Or maybe she didn't imagine I'd look closely. Most were old bakery invoices, some insurance renewals, a few receipts from equipment purchases. But one sheet stood out in a way that made my chest seize, a printed authorization form for Calder family renovations. Fake signature, my old sweeping handwriting style. And beneath it, the typed note, "Co-signer approval granted." I dropped the page like it burned. A knock rattled the cabin door. My stomach lurched. I wasn't expecting anyone. The only people who even knew I was here were the owner, and I edged toward the window, careful not to make sound. A figure stood on the porch, coat dusted with snow, shoulders drawn tight. When she turned slightly, the porch light caught her face. Mia, not Mom, not Frank. Just my little sister with red cheeks and eyes swollen from crying. I opened the door before she could knock again. She rushed inside, stomping snow off her boots. "Oh my God, Ava," she breathed, hugging herself. "It's freezing out there. Why didn't you answer your phone?" "Because I said quietly I wasn't ready." Mia pulled back her hood, wet strands of hair clinging to her forehead. She looked younger than usual, smaller somehow. "Mom is losing it," she blurted. "She's calling everyone. She said you left some kind of bomb under the tree. And Frank hasn't stopped yelling. They're saying you're trying to sabotage the house." "Ava, what is going on?" I stared at her for a long moment. She wasn't accusing. She wasn't yelling. She looked terrified. "Mia," I said softly, "I found something in the office." She blinked. "What office, Mom's?" Color drained from her face. "Ava, what did you find?" I grabbed the refinancing sheet along with the highlighted bank statements. I didn't speak as I handed them over. Her eyes scanned the pages quickly, then slowly, then widened until she looked like she was about to faint. Her voice came out a broken whisper. Why is your name first? Why does it say primary?" She flipped the page. "Why does this signature look so old?" I lowered myself onto the couch. "Because it is old." Mia looked up sharply. "Ava, did Mom—" I didn't have to finish the sentence. She saw the truth on my face before I could speak it. She sank onto the floor in front of me, papers trembling in her hands. "Oh my God," she choked. "Mom's been lying to me too, hasn't she? She said the refinancing was just paperwork. She said you volunteered." She said, her voice broke. I reached out, touching her shoulder gently. "Mia," I whispered, "you need to tell me everything she told you. Every detail. Every time she mentioned my name. Every document she asked you about. Because I think this goes deeper than either of us realize." Mia looked at me with wide, frightened eyes. And for the first time in our lives, she didn't look like the favored child. She looked like another victim. She swallowed hard. "Ava," she whispered, voice shaking. "Mom changed the lock on the office last week. She said she was protecting us, but I think she's protecting herself." My breath caught in my throat. I had known something was wrong. But now I knew it wasn't just wrong. It was dangerous. The storm outside thickened, snow falling faster, heavier. Inside, for the first time since I left that house, I felt something stir in my chest. Not fear, not anger, but determination. This wasn't just about Christmas anymore. This was about truth. And we were finally going to drag it into the light. Mia kept pacing the cabin floor, her boots, leaving wet patches across the wooden boards. She held the refinancing paper like it was radioactive, her eyes darting between the printed signatures and the highlighted bank transfers. I stood by the small window, watching thick flakes of snow drift down over the frozen lake, feeling the tension between us crackle like static. Mia had always been the protected one, buffered from every consequence, every responsibility. Now she was seeing the truth without Mom's filter, and she didn't know how to hold it. "Ava," she said, suddenly, her voice trembling, "Mom told me you offered to help with the house. She said you insisted because you felt guilty about moving out years ago." I turned from the window. "I never offered," she asked. Then she kept asking. Then she pretended it was normal. But she said, "I know what she said." Mia froze, her breath fogging in the cold cabin air. Her knuckles tightened around the paperwork. "I don't get it," she whispered. "Why would she put your name on this and not tell you? Why lie?" Why I cut her off gently. Because if she told me, I would have said no. And she couldn't afford that. Mia blinked at me like she wasn't sure whether to believe it or defend it. That was the spell Mom cast over us our entire lives. Ava is strong, Ava can handle things. Ava will help. Mia is delicate. Mia deserves more, Mia needs support. It kept us in the roles she built. But the truth was out now, and Mia looked like the ground was falling away beneath her. She sank onto the edge of the bed and quietly set the paperwork aside. Her hands fumbled with the zipper of her coat before she gave up entirely. "She told me you were being dramatic," she said slowly. "She told me you were overwhelmed with work, that you didn't understand how mortgages work. She told me you were just stressed." A humorless laugh escaped me. Stressed doesn't make someone's signature magically appear on a loan. Mia stared down at her gloves. "Frank said you've always been the responsible one, that you owed it to the family to help. He said no one else was in a position to do it." "That's not help," I answered. "That's dependency, manipulation, whatever you want to call it, it isn't love." Mia lifted her head, eyes watery. "Ava, do you really think they used you? I didn't soften my voice. I know they did." The cabin fell silent. Only the faint hum of the old heater filled the space. Then Mia whispered, barely audible, I think, "They used me too." She wiped her cheek with the back of her glove before the tear could fall. I sat down across from her, waiting. "Last year," Mia said, voice shaking, "Mom told me not to apply for that job in Montpelier. She said I wasn't ready, that people there wouldn't appreciate me. She said we needed to focus on the bakery as a family." I raised an eyebrow. "Did you want the job?" "Yes." She swallowed hard. "It was full-time, with benefits. But Mom said the bakery needed me for part-time shifts, and Frank told me working somewhere else would divide my focus." "Did they pay you for those shifts?" I asked, gently. Mia looked away. "Sometimes. Sometimes. Not always." It hit me like a slow, terrible realization. "Mia," I said softly, "they didn't just rely on me financially. They relied on you emotionally. You were the child who needed them. And they needed to feel needed." She pressed her palms to her eyes. "I didn't think they'd lie. Not about something like this." A quiet knock jolted both of us. Not the door, the window. We both snapped our heads toward the sound. A dark figure moved behind the frosted glass, blurry under the snow falling in waves. My pulse surged. "Who is that?" Mia whispered. I stepped closer cautiously. The figure shifted into the light, the cabin owner holding a small envelope sealed in plastic to protect it from snow. He waved it at us. I exhaled, shakily opened the door just enough to take it from him, thanked him, and closed the door again. "It was in your Dropbox," Mia said, watching me. The envelope was stamped with the Blue Maple Bakery logo, Mom's Bakery. My stomach twisted. I tore the plastic and slid the actual envelope free. Mia leaned closer, anxious. Inside was a single folded note in Mom's handwriting. Ava, we need to talk. This is getting out of hand. Come home immediately. If you don't, I'll have to tell the bank you're acting erratically. I'm trying to protect this family. Do not make this worse. Mom. Mia slapped a hand over her mouth. She didn't send that to me, she whispered. Only you. I read it again slower this time. Acting erratically. That was the story she'd pitch them if I didn't return. Painting herself as the victim, me as the unstable daughter. A narrative I wouldn't be able to fight if she said it first loudly enough. A cold, sick heat ran through me. Why would she threaten that? Mia asked in a shaking voice. Why would she say that to her own daughter? Because she's cornered, I murmured. And when people like Mom feel cornered, they rewrite the story entirely. Mia looked horrified. But you didn't do anything wrong. That doesn't matter, I said quietly. What matters is what she can make the bank believe. Mia stood abruptly, pacing again. Ava, we have to go there. We have to confront her. If she's hiding more, no. My voice came out sharper than intended. If we walk through that door without knowing what else is in that office, she'll twist everything before we can get a single word in. Mia stopped pacing. Then what do? I took a breath, feeling it sting in my lungs. We go to the bakery. Mia's eyes widened. Now she won't expect that, I said. She's too busy trying to cover the home mess. She'll assume her office at the bakery is safe. Mia hesitated. What if she's there? Then we walk away. And if she isn't? I grabbed the keys from the table. Then we find the rest of the truth. The drive through the snow-choked roads felt longer than the miles on the odometer. The flakes hit the windshield in frantic bursts, swirling like white static. Mia sat tense beside me, clutching her phone with both hands. Every so often, she'd whisper something under her breath, parts of conversations she'd had with Mom, fragments of moments she hadn't questioned until now. Remember when Mom told you not to go to college out of state, she said suddenly. She said it was too dangerous for a woman alone. Yes. But she encouraged me to go to New York when I talked about it. She said I needed independence. I forced a breath. Because me leaving would have taken her stability. You leaving would have given her something to brag about. The truth settled between us like another layer of snow. When we finally pulled into the empty bakery parking lot, the building looked darker than usual. The festive wreath on the door drooped under the weight of the storm, its ribbon blowing weakly in the wind. Mia tightened her scarf. Are you sure? No, I admitted. But we're out of options. I unlocked the back door, using the key I'd never returned. The bakery smelled like sugar and flour, but underneath the sweetness was something else, a stale fear, or maybe I was imagining it. We crept past the darkened counters and into the hallway. The office door loomed at the end. Mia took a shaky breath as I turned the knob. Locked, of course. I checked the frame. Mom had replaced the lock entirely. A shiny new deadbolt glinted back at me. I knew it, Mia whispered. She's hiding something. I stepped back, staring at the locked office. It wasn't just a room. It was the vault holding every answer we needed. And I wasn't leaving until I found a way inside. Mia tugged at the locked office door one more time, as if sheer desperation could loosen the deadbolt. The metallic clunk echoed through the empty bakery, bouncing off the tiled walls and stainless steel counters. Outside, the wind howled against the building, rattling the back door. Inside, the silence grew tight enough to choke on. She changed the lock, Mia whispered. She really did it. I stepped back, scanning the frame, the hinges, the tiny gap between the door and the floor. She didn't change it for security, I murmured. She changed it to hide something. Mia wrapped her arms around herself. Ava, what if she comes back? She won't. I said, though I didn't feel certain. She's too busy trying to make sure the bank believes her version of the story. Mia flinched. What version? The one where I'm unstable. And you're confused. And she's the selfless mother who tried her best. Mia's breath hitched. Ava, that's not true. I know it's not true, I said. But she's counting on everyone else believing it. Before Mia could respond, a faint noise drifted down the hallway, the soft jingle of keys. Mia grabbed my sleeve. Someone's here. I motioned for her to stay still. Footsteps approached, slow and heavy, like the person was trying not to make noise and failing. A shadow passed the frosted window of the back door, then the handle rattled. My heart slammed against my ribs. The door creaked open, letting in a swirl of snow and frigid air. Mia gasped. "Ava," a voice called softly. "Ava, I know you're in here." Mia whispered, horrified, "Oh my God, Mom." Loretta stepped inside, her coat dusted in snowflakes, her hair clinging to her cheeks. Her eyes scanned the bakery until they landed on us standing outside her office. She froze. Her gaze darted to the locked door behind me. "Ava," she breathed, voice trembling with something between anger and panic. "What are you doing?" I didn't move. Looking for the truth. Her jaw clenched, and for a moment she didn't speak. Then she tried for a calm smile that cracked at the edges. "You shouldn't be here," she whispered. "Both of you. This is dangerous." Mia stepped forward, first surprising both of us. "Dangerous how?" she asked, voice shaking. "Why did you change the lock, Mom?" Loretta's eyes flashed. "Because there are important business documents inside. You two don't understand how complicated things are." "You mean the refinancing?" I asked quietly. "The loans in my name. The signature you forged." Her face drained of color so fast she looked ill. "I didn't forge anything," she snapped. "You must have forgotten you signed them. It was years ago. You always helped with the paperwork." "Stop," I said sharply. The word hung between us like a slap. Loretta blinked, stunned. I'd never used that tone with her before. "You changed the lock," I said, stepping closer. "You hid documents. And then you threatened to call the bank and tell them I was unstable." "Why?" Her breath hitched. She turned her face away, as if the fluorescent lights were suddenly too bright. "Ava," she whispered, "you don't know what you're doing. You could destroy us." "No," I said. "You already did that. I'm just cleaning up the debris." Mia grabbed my arm. "Ava, wait." But Loretta cut in, her voice rising raw and desperate. "I was trying to protect this family. Everything. I did everything. You don't understand how hard it's been." Mia shook her head, tears gathering in her eyes. "Protect us, Mom. You used us." Loretta recoiled like she'd been struck. "That's not true." "It is," Mia whispered, stepping toward her. "You told me not to take that job. You told me Ava volunteered for the mortgage. You lied about everything. You made me think she was selfish." Loretta's face crumpled. "I did what I had to do," she murmured. "The bakery, your future, this family, it all depended on Ava helping. She's always been the strong one." There it was, the justification for every sacrifice she pushed onto me. "She's stronger than you, Mom," said, voice cracking. "You're sensitive, Mia. I couldn't put pressure on you." "Ava, she doesn't break." A cold edge slid through me. "I'm not a machine," I whispered. "I'm your daughter." Loretta opened her mouth, but no words came out. Her chest heaved, her eyes shining with a frantic mix of regret and denial. "Ava," she said, "finally, I need you to give those documents back. Please. You don't know how much trouble this could cause." "If the bank sees them?" "They already saw some of them," I interrupted, "and they found inconsistencies." Loretta's hands trembled violently. "No," she whispered. "No, no, no. You shouldn't have involved them. You're making everything worse." Mia stepped between us, voice breaking. "Mom, stop blaming her. You're the one who lied. You're the one who put her name everywhere without telling her. I was trying to save us." Loretta sobbed. "Do you have any idea how close we were to losing the bakery, to losing the house? I only did what I had to do." "You had to commit fraud?" I asked quietly. Loretta's breath caught. "It wasn't fraud. It was leverage." "Leverage," I repeated, "using your daughter's identity as leverage." For a beat, no one spoke. Snow pattered softly against the windows, the sound eerily gentle compared to the storm inside. Then my phone buzzed in my coat pocket. Loretta flinched at the sound. I pulled it out and saw a notification. "Green Lake Bank attempted payment reversal flagged. Please contact Fraud Division." My heart dropped. Payment reversal. Someone had tried to undo something after I left. Behind my back, I lifted my eyes slowly. "Mom," I said, voice low, "did you or Frank try to reverse a payment in my name?" Her mouth opened and closed. Her gaze flicked to the locked office. She didn't have to answer. Mia whispered, horrified, "Mom." "What did you do?" Loretta pressed her hand to her forehead, shaking. "I was fixing it. I was trying to fix it before they noticed. If the bank thinks you're backing out, so you acted as me," I finished. Her shoulders sagged. Her voice broke into a whisper. "I didn't have a choice." "Mom," I said softly, "you always had a choice. You just never chose me." Mia covered her mouth, sobbing silently. I took a slow step backward, the truth settling deep into my bones like winter frost. I didn't feel anger anymore, just clarity. Cold, sharp clarity that made it easier to breathe. "I'm taking the documents," I said calmly. Loretta's head snapped up. "Ava, no, I'm taking them," I repeated. "And if the bank wants to talk, they talk to me. Not you." Her eyes widened in terror. "Ava, please, don't do this. You'll ruin everything." I reached for Mia's hand. "No," I said. "You ruined everything the moment you put my name on something I never agreed to." Loretta stared at me like she didn't recognize the woman standing in front of her. Snowlight flickered across the office door behind her, illuminating the deadbolt she'd installed to keep the truth hidden. But nothing stays hidden forever. My phone buzzed again. This time it wasn't a warning. It was a message from the bank's fraud division. "If this request wasn't from you, please contact us immediately." I felt my pulse hammer. Mia looked at me. "Ava, what is it?" "A warning," I whispered. "Someone tried to change something, and the bank thinks it was me." Mia's face went pale. "They're trying to fix the paperwork behind your back." I nodded, heart pounding. "And they're running out of time." Loretta's voice cracked behind us. "Ava, please." But the spell had broken, and I wasn't the child who stayed silent anymore. The fraud division agent answered on the second ring, her voice calm in a way that made my pulse stutter. I stood in the freezing bakery parking lot with Mia trembling beside me, snow swirling so thick it blurred the streetlights into soft halos. "Miss Calder," the woman said, "thank you for returning our call. We need to verify urgent irregularities on multiple accounts linked to your name." I swallowed hard. I didn't authorize any reversals, or changes, or submissions. Whatever activity you're seeing, it wasn't me. A pause, the kind that tells you the person on the other end just pulled up something concerning. "We suspected as much," she said quietly. "Someone attempted to undo a payment and revise your signer status at 6:14 p.m. from an IP address associated with your family's bakery." My stomach twisted. Of course they were still trying. Even now. Even after everything. Beside me, Mia covered her mouth, horrified. "Oh my God," she whispered. "They wouldn't." But she knew. We both knew. The agent continued, "Miss Calder, before we proceed, I need to ask directly. Are you safe right now?" "Safe." The word tasted unfamiliar. "I'm not in danger," I said after a long moment. "But I'm not home either." Another pause. "Understood. I'll speak plainly then. We've identified inconsistencies with several documents tied to the Calder residence and the bakery building. Some signatures appear to match versions of your handwriting from an older ID, not your current one. Can you confirm whether your mother or stepfather had access to your older identification documents?" A cold wave washed over me. "Yes," I said softly. "My mother kept all my paperwork growing up. She never returned some of it." Mia's face crumpled. The agent let out a slow breath. "That explains some of what we're seeing. Some." "Miss Calder," she continued, "do you have any reason to believe someone in your household signed documents under your name without your consent?" Snow pattered against my coat. My breath fogged. Somewhere behind us, the bakery sign creaked in the wind. I closed my eyes. "Yes," I said, "I do." Mia let out a soft cry. "Ava." The agent's tone shifted from clinical to careful. Then I need you to walk me through everything you know. When the payments started, any documents you found, any conversations that raised red flags. I took a long breath. Then I began. While snowflakes gathered on my eyelashes, I told her about the 3 years of monthly transfers, the temporary help that never ended, the hidden envelope I found under the Christmas wrapping, the blank card, the threatening note Mom sent afterward, the new lock on the office door, the IP address that wasn't mine. I told her about the refinancing document with my old signature. Mia gripped my arm so tightly her nails dug into my sleeve. She whispered, "I'm so sorry," over and over under her breath. When I finished, the agent cleared her throat. "Thank you for being honest. What you're describing fits the pattern we're seeing." The wind howled. My heartbeat thudded behind my ribs. "Pattern," I whispered. "Yes. A pattern of financial manipulation and unauthorized signer activity. This is serious, Miss Calder. We need to protect you." For a moment I couldn't breathe. Protect me. Not blame me. Not guilt me. Not tell me I was overreacting. Protect me. It felt unreal. "Miss Calder," the agent continued, "do you currently have possession of any original documents or evidence?" "Yes," I said. "Some. Are they with you now?" I looked down at the folder Mia held, gripping it to her chest like it might shatter. "Yes," I said again. "Good. I'll need you to bring them to our Burlington office tomorrow morning for a formal review." Tomorrow. The fallout was coming fast. I felt Mia stiffen beside me. She whispered, "Mom will lose her mind." "She already has," I murmured. The agent spoke again. "One more thing. Someone attempted to remove your name from the bakery loan 15 minutes ago, but the system flagged it." My breath hitched. "They're trying to erase me. They're trying to cover their tracks," the agent corrected gently. "Please understand, your mother and stepfather may escalate if they realize an investigation is starting. If you feel unsafe, you need to tell us." I glanced at Mia. She looked so small, snow settling in her hair, eyes red and terrified. "I'm okay," I said. "For now." "Good. Then we will see you in the morning. Keep your phone on. And Miss Calder, don't confront them again tonight." "I won't." The call ended. I lowered the phone slowly, my fingers numb. Mia stared at me like she was seeing me clearly for the first time. "Ava, this is really bad. I know." She stepped closer. "Do you think Mom knew how wrong this was?" I hesitated. That was the last piece of innocence she had left, but lies had already done too much damage between us. "She knew," I whispered. "Mom isn't careless. She plans, she prepares, she knows exactly what she's doing. Ava, she doesn't break." A cold edge slid through me. "I'm not a machine," I whispered. "I'm your daughter." Loretta opened her mouth, but no words came out. Her chest heaved, her eyes shining with a frantic mix of regret and denial. "Ava," she said finally, "I need you to give those documents back, please. You don't know how much trouble this could cause." "If the bank sees them," "They already saw some of them," I interrupted. "And they found inconsistencies." "None of this is your fault." Her breath came out in choked sobs. "I believed everything she said about you, every story, every excuse. I know. I thought you were dramatic, hard to deal with. I thought Mom must be right." I squeezed her hand gently. "Mia, she's always made sure we saw each other through her eyes." Snow drifted around us like quiet applause for the truth finally being spoken. Mia wiped her face. "What do we do now?" I looked toward the bakery door, the locked office glowing faintly under the hallway light inside. Every secret we needed was behind that door. Every lie, every signature, every plan. "Tonight," I said. "We leave." Mia blinked. "Leave, yes. Go back to the cabin. Lock the doors. No calls. No texts. No contact. And tomorrow," I took a slow breath, steadying myself for the storm coming. "Tomorrow," I said, "we tell the bank everything." Mia nodded slowly. For the first time in years, she stood beside me. Not the favorite, not the dependent, not the protected one. Just my sister. We walked back to the car through knee-high snow, the wind biting at our cheeks. When I glanced back at the bakery, I saw the faint silhouette of someone standing at the office window. Watching. Waiting. My pulse stumbled. "Mia," I whispered. "Get in the car. Now." We drove away fast enough to kick up a flurry of white behind us. As the bakery disappeared in the rearview mirror, one thought settled deep into my chest. They weren't done. They were just getting desperate. And desperation makes dangerous people even more reckless. Mia held the MacBook against her chest like a shield, her breath fogging in the cold night air. The headlights from her car cast long shadows across the snow as she stepped closer, boots crunching on the ice. She looked smaller than I'd ever seen her, afraid, confused but determined to stand there anyway. "Ava," she whispered, "Mom says you're dangerous now." Her words sliced through me. "Dangerous?" Mia nodded quickly, her voice tight. "She said you're trying to destroy the family. She said you've become unstable and that you're twisting the story to make her look bad." A laugh built in my chest, shaky and incredulous. "Unstable, that's her angle." Mia swallowed hard. And she said you stole something from her office. Something important." I exhaled slowly, the cold air turning my breath into steam. Of course Mom wouldn't tell Mia the truth. Of course she'd twist the narrative first, she always did. "I didn't steal anything," I said. "I took the documents with my name on them. The ones she hid." Mia flinched. "Ava, I need you to hear something." She lifted the laptop and opened the screen, her fingers trembling as she navigated to a messaging tab. "Mom has a group chat, family emergency. She didn't add you. She didn't want you to see it." My stomach tightened. "Show me." Mia clicked. The screen filled with messages sent within the past hour. "Loretta. If Ava turns on us, we stick to the story. She acted alone. Frank will say she begged to help with the refinance. We told her not to." "Loretta." "Exactly. She's always been dramatic. The bank will believe us." Mia's hands shook harder. "She wants us to blame you, Ava. She wants me to lie." I stared at the glowing screen, the words burning into me. Dramatic, unstable, acted alone. The story she was scripting wasn't just selfish, it was strategic. "She's preparing her defense," I murmured. "She wants to rewrite everything before the bank hears the truth." Mia wiped her eyes with the back of her glove. "Ava, it gets worse." She clicked another message thread one mom had titled "Urgent Legal." I watched line by line as my mother's panic spilled across the screen. "Loretta, if Ava tries to report anything we say she forged the old signature. We say she volunteered every time. We say she wanted to help the bakery. We say Mia saw her sign. Frank. And if the bank calls, we say she's confused. Family stress. Work stress. Loretta. Good, I'll talk to a lawyer in the morning. We need to put everything on Ava before she puts anything on us." The last line made my vision blur. They were preparing to make me the villain. Not just emotionally. Not just privately. Legally. Mia closed the laptop, hugging it to her stomach. "I didn't know she was planning this. I thought she was stressed. I thought she just wanted you home. But she's trying to get you blamed for the loans." "She's cornered," I said quietly. "She'll do anything to survive." Mia pulled in a shaky breath. "Ava, why is she doing this? Why is she acting like you're the threat?" I looked toward the dark tree line behind the cabin's snow drifting silently across the forest floor. "Because I found the documents," I said softly. "And because the bank is asking questions she can't answer." Mia stared at me, her voice trembling. "What documents?" I opened the folder in my coat pocket and handed her the refinancing sheet, my name, typed first, my childhood signature at the bottom. Then the highlighted mortgage transfers. The equipment loan. The renovation authorization. Mia's fingers flew to her mouth. "Ava." She told me these were standard forms. She told me you signed them. She said you were helping the family. I shook my head. She forged them, or had someone sign in my name. Mia looked like she might vomit. She used the old signature from your first ID, the one she kept in the office. The truth hit her like a physical blow. She stumbled back a step before catching herself. Ava, she lied to me too, she whispered. All year, every month. She said you volunteered to help with the bakery. She said you were fine with it. She said. I stepped closer, placing a steady hand on her shoulder. I know. She's been telling you versions of the story that make her look like the hero. Or the victim. Mia's voice cracked. Why would she do that to me? I'm her daughter. Because she needed you to stay blind. Mia let out a gasping sob. I feel sick. Before I could comfort her, her phone rang. Mom. Mia's eyes widened. She'll know I'm with you if I don't answer. I motioned for her to put it on speaker. Mia hesitated, then slid her finger across the screen. Mom, Mia. Loretta snapped her voice, sharp with panic. Where are you? The bank called again. If you're with Ava, come home right now. She's manipulating you. She's unstable. She's Mom. Mia, said her voice trembling. Ava didn't forge anything. You did. A long, jagged silence. Then Loretta's voice dropped into something cold and vicious. Mia, put that laptop away. Come home. Right. Now. No, Mia whispered. Not until you tell us the truth. Another silence, this one darker. Mia. Loretta said you don't know what you're talking about. Mia's voice rose. I saw the messages, Mom. The group chat. The plan to lie. You were going to make Ava take the fall. I stepped closer as Mia's voice cracked again. How could you do that to us? She cried. How could you do that to her? Loretta exhaled the sound sharp. Mia, listen to me. You're young and confused. Ava has always been dramatic. She twists things. She's destroying our family. I clenched my teeth so hard it hurt. Mia wiped angry tears from her face. No, Mom, you're destroying it. Loretta hissed something unintelligible, something broken and furious before the line cut abruptly. Mia stood frozen, chest rising and falling in ragged breaths. I touched her arm gently. Hey, look at me. She lifted her red, wet eyes. You did the right thing, I said softly. You saw what she was doing. You saw the truth. Mia shook her head. I don't want to lose her, Ava. I know, I whispered. But you can't lose yourself either. She choked on a sob and nodded. I wrapped my arm around her shoulders as the wind whipped icy flakes against us. After a moment, Mia sniffed, wiped her nose, and opened the laptop again. There's something else, she whispered. Mom didn't want you to see this. She clicked a file and a video opened, grainy but clear enough. It was the bakery office. Loretta stood at the desk, organizing 3 stacks of documents. Frank hovered behind her, glancing at the door. Mia, my Mia, was sitting in the chair with a pen in hand. In the video, Loretta slid papers toward her. Sign here, honey. It's for school, she'd said. Mia shook her head violently. She said it was for school, she whispered. But it wasn't. I stared at the screen. My name was on the envelopes, on every one. My old signature printed on the bottom line. The truth punched the air from my lungs. Ava, Mia whispered, looking up at me terrified and guilty. I didn't know. I swear. I placed my hand on her shoulder. Again. I know. For a long moment we stood there, snow settling on our hair, our coats, our eyelashes, the world cold and quiet around us. Finally, Mia asked in a small voice, What do we do now? I exhaled slowly, the determination settling inside me like steel. Tomorrow we meet the bank, I said. Together, and we tell them everything. Mia nodded. But when she looked at me, her eyes glistened with something new. Fear. Mom won't let this go, she whispered. I didn't sugarcoat my response. No, I said. She won't. I reached for her hand, but neither will we. The morning we drove to the bank, the world felt unnervingly quiet, as if the snow itself was holding its breath. The cabin's windows were frosted in delicate patterns, the trees bowing under thick sheets of ice. Mia sat in the passenger seat, wrapped in a scarf she kept pulling up to her chin, her leg bouncing uncontrollably. I started the car. The engine groaned, awake headlights carving pale tunnels through the mist. "You okay?" I asked softly. She nodded, but her voice betrayed her. "I didn't sleep." "Me neither." We didn't have to say why. Everything felt like it was about to collapse or explode. The drive into Burlington was silent at first, just tires crunching through slush. But about 20 minutes in, Mia spoke. "Do you think they're going to be there?" I tightened my grip on the steering wheel. "Maybe. Maybe not. They'll be angry. They already are," she exhaled shakily. "Ava, what if Mom tries to twist the story in person? What if she tells the bank we're lying? What if we tell the truth?" My voice was steady even if my nerves weren't. "We show them the documents. The video. Your messages. Everything." Mia stared at her hands. "I hate that it's come to this." "I do too," I murmured. But pretending everything was fine got us here. The bank building loomed ahead, a sterile block of glass and steel, standing against a sky the color of wet concrete. I found a parking spot near the entrance. Mia hesitated before getting out, her breath forming tiny clouds. "Once we go in," she whispered, "there's no going back." I touched her shoulder. "I know." We stepped into the crisp air and froze, because two cars we recognized immediately were already parked at the entrance. Mom's SUV, Frank's truck. Mia's fingers clamped onto my coat. "They came early." "Of course they did," I said quietly. "They're trying to get ahead of us." We exchanged a tense look before pushing forward. Inside, the bank lobby smelled faintly like printer paper and lemon cleaner. A receptionist with a neat bun and gentle eyes greeted us. "Are you Ava Calder?" "Yes." She nodded already, knowing the answer from the urgency in my voice. "The fraud division is waiting upstairs." "Follow me." Mia and I exchanged a glance. "Follow me." They weren't even giving us time to sit or breathe. That meant this was big. Bigger than I'd hoped. Worse than I'd feared. We were led to a small conference room with glass walls. Through them, I saw Mom pacing like a caged animal, her lips pressed into a tight line. Frank sat stiffly beside her, jaw-clenched, foot tapping the floor. The moment Mom spotted us, she lunged toward the door, only for a bank employee to gently block her. Her voice pierced the hallway. "Ava, Mia, get over here right now." Mia flinched. I didn't. The bank's fraud investigator, the same woman from last night's call, stepped out of the room. She wore a charcoal suit and an expression that said she'd seen chaos before, but was prepared for this particular hurricane. "Miss Calder," she said, with a calm smile, "thank you for coming. And you must be Mia." "I'm glad you both made it safely," Mom shouted from inside. "They're lying to you." "My daughters are confused." The investigator raised a hand without looking at her. "Mrs. Harland, please remain seated." The use of her married name, not Mom, not Loretta, made something inside me settle with a click. Things were shifting. The investigator gestured to Mia and me. "Come in." We entered the room. Mom immediately reached for Mia's hands, but Mia stepped behind me. A crack appeared in Mom's expression. Frank cleared his throat. "We're ready to set the record straight." The investigator nodded politely. "Good. Because I intend to establish the truth, but it will be through documentation, not emotion." Mom looked like the word documentation physically offended her. We took our seats opposite them. The investigator opened a folder. "We'll begin with the refinancing forms." Mom leaned forward quickly. Ava volunteered to help. She insisted. She signed willingly. "Mrs. Harland." The investigator interrupted gently, but firmly. "I will ask questions. You will answer only when asked." Mom's lips thinned into a razor-sharp line. The investigator turned to me. "Miss Calder, did you sign this document?" She slid the refinancing paper across the table. My heart squeezed, seeing my old signature printed there, stolen from my childhood. "No," I said. "That signature was taken from an old ID my mother kept without my permission." Mom scoffed loudly. You see, dramatic, the investigator didn't look up. Mrs. Harland, please remain quiet. Frank sat forward. We can explain. You will both have a chance to speak, the investigator said calmly. Right now, we're verifying factual claims. She turned to Mia. Miss Calder, did you witness your sister sign this form? Mia's eyes flickered with pain. No, the investigator nodded. Did you ever sign anything your mother put in front of you under the pretense it was for school or routine? Mom stiffened. Mia, don't. But Mia's voice was steady. Yes, she had me sign multiple papers. I trusted her. Mom's face drained of color. The investigator jotted notes. Thank you. She then opened the laptop Mia had brought and clicked on the video file. Mom lunged forward. Turn that off right now. That's private. The investigator held up a hand without looking at her. This appears to show you instructing your younger daughter to sign documents with your elder daughter's name on them. It's taken out of context, Mom shrieked. This is ridiculous. Frank touched her arm, trying to calm her, but she shook him off violently. Mia's voice broke. Mom, please stop. When the video finished, the investigator closed the laptop slowly. Mrs. Harland, Mr. Harland, before I continue, do either of you wish to revise your earlier claim that Ava forged her own signature? Silence. Heavy. Suffocating. For the first time in my life, I watched my mother struggle to form words. Finally, Frank spoke. This is all a misunderstanding. We thought Ava would help the family. We didn't think the bank would get involved. The investigator raised her eyebrows. You forged signatures on federally regulated loan documents. Mom pressed her palms flat on the table. I did what I had to do for my family. The bakery would have died without that money. We were sinking, and you chose, the investigator said calmly, to sink your daughter instead. Mom stared at me with raw desperation. Ava, tell them you're not pressing charges. Tell them we can fix this. You know I love you. The words hit me like a blow. You know I love you. Love that had cost me 3 years of my life. My savings. My stability. My peace. No, I said quietly. You don't get to rewrite this anymore. Mom's face twisted. You're doing this to punish me. You're doing this to hurt us. No, I said. You hurt us. I'm just done pretending you didn't. The investigator slid a new paper between us. Frank sat forward. We can explain. You will both have a chance to speak, the investigator said calmly. Right now, we're verifying factual claims. She turned to Mia. Miss Calder, did you witness your sister sign this form? Mia's eyes flickered with pain. No, the investigator nodded. Did you ever sign anything your mother put in front of you under the pretense it was for school or routine? Mom stiffened. Mia, don't. But Mia's voice was steady. Yes, this is ridiculous. Frank touched her arm, trying to calm her, but she shook him off violently. Mia's voice broke. Mom, please stop. When the video finished, the investigator closed the laptop slowly. Mrs. Harland, Mr. Harland, before I continue, do either of you wish to revise your earlier claim that Ava forged her own signature? Silence. Heavy. Suffocating. For the first time in my life, I watched my mother struggle to form words. Finally, Frank spoke. Mrs. Harland, Mr. Harland, we are recommending the bank pursue formal investigation into fraudulent activity unless Miss Calder chooses to settle this privately. That will depend on her decision. Mom whipped toward me, eyes wild. Ava, you wouldn't dare. Mia gripped my arm. Ava, I'm with you. Whatever you choose. For the first time, Mom really looked at her, saw she'd lost her. The investigator folded her hands. Miss Calder, what would you like to do? The room held its breath. I looked at her, the sister I'd almost lost, the girl finally seeing the truth through her own eyes. Yeah, I said softly. We are. Mia and I didn't speak as we walked out of the bank. The snow had stopped leaving, the world washed clean and unnervingly still. A thin layer of frost coated the sidewalks, glittering under the muted winter sun. My breath came in slow, cold clouds as everything that had happened inside the conference room replayed in my mind like a distant echo. Mom's screams. Frank's pale, panicked face, the investigator's calm certainty, my own voice saying, "The bank should proceed." Those words still felt unreal sitting on my tongue. Mia tugged her scarf tighter around her neck and followed me to the car, her boots crunching softly on the icy pavement. She kept glancing over her shoulder as if expecting our mother to burst out of the doors behind us. "She's going to come after us," Mia whispered once we were inside the car with the doors locked. I turned the ignition but didn't pull out yet. Maybe not. But whatever she does next, that's on her. Mia hugged her coat to her chest. She looked. I've never seen her like that. I had. Just not in public. Just not in front of anyone but me. "We made the right choice," I said more firmly than I felt. Mia nodded slowly. "Then why does my stomach feel like it's in my shoes?" "Because losing illusions always hurts," I said quietly. "Even when the truth is better for us." We drove in silence for a long while. The highway stretched out in white rows between the frozen trees. Somewhere in the distance, a thin ribbon of smoke rose from a farmhouse chimney, spiraling toward the gray-blue sky. Life kept moving even when ours felt like it was cracking open. Halfway back to the cabin, Mia's phone buzzed with a text. She looked down and inhaled sharply. "It's Mom." "What does it say?" Mia's eyes darted over the screen. "She's home. She wants us to come immediately." I shook my head. "We're not going there. She says we need to fix what we just broke." My jaw tightened. She's not asking to talk. She's asking to control. Mia put her phone face down in her lap as if afraid it might bite her. "Ava, she's not going to let this go. I know. Do you think she hates us now?" The question hit harder than I expected. "No," I said slowly, "but she hates losing control, and she's losing it fast." Mia nodded, eyes glassy. "I guess that's worse." Outside, the sun dipped lower, casting long shadows through the birch trees. I turned off the road onto the narrow path toward the cabin. The tires slid once on the icy gravel, and Mia gripped the dashboard instinctively. When we finally reached the cabin, the clearing felt strangely tense, as if the air itself was vibrating. I parked and stepped out, carefully scanning the woods. Mia's voice trembled behind me. "Do you think she could have followed us?" "No. She would have stormed in already if she had." But my confidence wasn't as solid as my voice tried to sound. Inside the cabin, the lingering scent of last night's coffee hung in the air, mingling with the sharp winter scent seeping in through the window cracks. I locked the door immediately. Mia dropped onto the couch, burying her face in her hands. "I thought today would make everything better." "It will," I said gently. "Not immediately, but eventually." She looked up at me with red, tired eyes. "What if the bank presses charges? What if Mom gets arrested? What if Mia?" I said softly, sitting next to her. "Mom made choices. Choices with consequences. We're not responsible for those consequences just because we're her daughters." Her face crumpled. "I spent so long believing her version of everything. I feel stupid." "You weren't stupid," I corrected. "You were trusting, and she took advantage of that." My words made her shoulders shake. Minutes passed in quiet sobs and slow breaths until she finally wiped her cheeks and exhaled. Okay. So what happens next?" "We wait for the bank to call," I said. "They'll want more documents, maybe statements. They'll contact Mom separately. And us? We stay away from her for now." Mia nodded, but fear flickered in her eyes. "Ava, what if she shows up here?" "She won't," I said again with more certainty than I felt. We made tea in silence, hands wrapping around the warm mugs as if the heat could melt the dread inside us. Snow began falling again outside, dusting the porch in soft white. The quiet felt almost peaceful, until headlights cut through the trees. Mia gasped. "Oh God," my heart lurched. A car turned into the clearing, tires skidding on the icy ground. For one horrible moment I thought it was Mom's SUV, but instead, a silver sedan pulled up beside the cabin. The driver's door opened, and my breath caught. It was Mrs. Turner, the Calder family's longtime neighbor. She was in her 60s, bundled in a heavy coat, her white hair tucked under a knit hat. She slammed her door shut with the urgency of someone whose heart was racing too fast. Mia stood up so quickly her mug spilled. Why is she here? I didn't know, but she looked shaken. I rushed to open the cabin door. She stopped at the porch, breathless and wide-eyed. Girls, I had to come. What happened? I asked, pulse pounding. It's your mother, Mrs. Turner, said voice trembling. She came to my house in a panic. She looked unhinged. She was shouting that you two had ruined her life. Mia covered her mouth. I tried to calm her, Mrs. Turner continued, but she wouldn't listen. She kept saying you stole from her, that you betrayed her, that she was going to make sure the world knew the truth. The word truth landed like a threat. Then she drove off, Mrs. Turner added, wringing her gloves. Fast, reckless. I didn't know where she was going, but she had your address pulled up on her phone. Mia's breath hitched. Ava, she's coming here. The air in the cabin snapped tight. How long ago did she leave? I asked. Maybe 15 minutes. I checked the clock. The drive from town to our cabin, 20 minutes, 25 in snow. My pulse hammered under my ribs. She thinks you hurt her, Mrs. Turner, whispered, eyes full of fear. She thinks you're trying to destroy her. She's not thinking clearly. I felt the world tilt. Mia's voice trembled. Ava, what do we do? I locked the cabin door, then all the windows. Then I turned off the lights until the room sank into dim shadows lit only by the falling snow outside. We wait, I said, throat tight. And if she comes, a car engine roared in the distance, growing louder, closer. Mia grabbed my arm. Oh God, Ava. I reached for my phone with shaking fingers. One way or another, I whispered, tonight is going to change everything. The sound of tires crunching through the snow grew louder, deeper, angrier. Mia clutched my arm so tightly my fingers went numb. Mrs. Turner stood frozen near the window, one hand pressed to her mouth as headlights flared between the trees like a pair of furious, searching eyes. I stepped toward the front door, my heartbeat thudding in my throat. Ava, Mia whispered, don't open it, please. I'm not, I said quietly, though my voice felt distant as if it belonged to someone else. But I need to see if it's her. We all waited in breathless silence. The headlights stuttered, then stopped altogether. For several seconds the woods settled again, snow falling softly from branches weighted with frost. Then a car door slammed. Hard, violently, Mia whimpered. That's her. I know that slam. A figure moved through the falling snow, dark coat, frantic movements, long stride. Even blurred by frost and distance, the posture was unmistakable. Mom, Loretta, the woman who raised us, the woman who lied to us, the woman who forged my name. She stomped through the snow toward the cabin, her breath coming out in jagged bursts. Even from inside, we could hear her muttering to herself, words sharp and incoherent. Mrs. Turner stepped back. She's not well, she whispered. She's not in her right mind. Mia trembled violently. Ava, she's going to break the door. The footsteps stomped onto the porch. Snow shook off her boots. Then she pounded the door with her fist. Ava, open this door right now. Her voice shot through the cabin, high and ragged. Not furious, desperate. I backed up a step. Mia clung to me, sobbing quietly. Don't let her in. Please, Ava. Not like this. I won't, I murmured. Mom hit the door again, harder this time. I know you're in there. I saw your car. Mrs. Turner moved toward the kitchen. I'm calling the police. No, Mia whispered, panicked. No police. Mom will hate us forever. She already hates us, I said softly. Mrs. Turner shook her head. I'm calling. This isn't safe. Mom's fist slammed into the door again. Ava, Mia, open this door or I'll break it, Mia yelped. I stepped forward, swallowing hard. Mom, I called through the door, keeping my voice steady. You need to calm down. We're not opening it. Calm down, she shrieked. You ruined us. You lied to the bank. You're trying to take everything from me. You did that, I said gently. Not us. There was a terrible quiet. Then she screamed, a raw animal sound that scraped through my bones. You ungrateful girl! After everything I gave you, after all I sacrificed, you think you can humiliate me, make them investigate me. I'm your mother." Mia covered her ears. "Ava, stop talking to her, please." But I couldn't stop. Something inside me needed this moment, needed to finally speak what I'd swallowed for years. "You used my name," I said. "You forged my signature. You tricked Mia. You lied to us. You lied to the bank." "I did what I had to do to survive," she screeched. "No," I said. "You did what you wanted, and you used your daughters to get it." A heavy thump hit the door, a shoulder this time. Ava Mom wailed. "Let me in, Mom," Mia sobbed. "Please stop. Please, you're scaring us." "Oh, now you care about family," Mom spat. "Now you care. You betrayed me with your lies. You sided with her." Mia sobbed harder. Mrs. Turner dialed faster, whispering the situation to the dispatcher. "Don't you dare call the police!" Mom shrieked through the door. "You hear me, don't you dare!" A sudden metallic sound, keys fumbling. She still had a copy. My pulse snapped into high alert. I lunged and threw the deadbolt. The handle rattled violently. "AVA." "It's locked," I said through the door. "You can't come in," she pounded again. "You think you're safe. You think they'll believe you. You think you're better than me. I made you." Her words dissolved into choking sobs. For a moment, everything went still. Then her voice dropped into something cold. Too cold. "Ava," she whispered, "open this door. Or I swear I'll make you regret the day you were born." Mia screamed. "Stop, stop it," Mrs. Turner gripped her shoulders, pulling her back. I felt something shift inside me, something break and harden all at once. "No," I said quietly. "I won't open it. Not ever again." Footsteps paced furiously across the porch, back and forth, back and forth. Then the sound of wood splintering as she kicked the door. "Let me in." Another kick, a harder one. I backed up, grabbing Mia and Mrs. Turner. "Get into the back room, now." We rushed toward the hallway, but then we heard sirens in the distance, growing louder through the trees. Mom paused mid-kick. "What have you done?" she whispered hoarsely. "Ava, what did you do?" She stepped off the porch and ran. We watched from the window as she slipped on the icy slope, stumbled to her car, and peeled out of the clearing just as a police cruiser pulled in. When the officers knocked, I finally opened the door. My hands were still shaking uncontrollably. The younger officer scanned the damaged frame. "Are you Ava Calder?" "Yes. You're safe now," he said gently. Something inside me needed this moment, needed to finally speak what I'd swallowed for years. "You used my name," I said. "You forged my signature. You tricked Mia. You lied to us. You lied to the bank." "I did what I had to do to survive," she screeched. "No," I said. "You did what you wanted, and you used your daughters to get it." A heavy thump hit the door, a shoulder this time. Ava Mom wailed. "Let me in, Mom," Mia sobbed. "Please stop. Please, you're scaring us." The little girl in me whispered no. The grown woman whispered yes. When I opened my eyes again, my voice was steady. "Yes," I said. "I want to file." Mia looked up, eyes red and swollen. "Ava, does this mean we're done with her?" I sat beside her and took her cold hands in mine. "No," I whispered softly. "It means we're done letting her hurt us." Snow drifted past the windows, soft, white, fragile. The air felt too quiet, too empty, too raw. But inside, something new was beginning. A boundary, a breath, a life without fear. And for the first time in a long time, I let myself believe we might survive this. In the weeks after that night, the world thawed slowly, as if the season itself understood we needed time to breathe again. The cabin felt safer than it ever had, wrapped in layers of quiet snowfall and long mornings filled with nothing but the soft hum of the heater. For the first time in years, I woke without dread coiled in my stomach. No frantic texts, no guilt-laced demands, no constant fear of disappointing someone who never cared enough to listen. Mia stayed with me through most of January, sleeping on the pull-out couch, her nightmares easing a little more each night. Sometimes she'd wake up calling Mom's name, then remember the truth, and cry silently until I sat with her and held her hand. She apologized endlessly for believing the lies until I finally told her to stop. "You were a child," I whispered one night. "I was too. We just didn't know it." Little by little we found our rhythm again. We cooked meals together. We laughed over nothing. We talked about things that weren't painful: books, movies, the time she dyed her hair green in high school, and blamed the well water. It felt like reclaiming pieces of ourselves we didn't know we'd lost. The bank investigation moved steadily, methodically. The documents, the signatures, the video, every piece told a story the truth could no longer hide. The fraud division thanked us for our cooperation. They asked for no more statements from us. They had what they needed. Mom never contacted us directly again. Frank tried once, leaving a voicemail saying things had gotten out of hand and that family matters should stay in the family. I deleted it before Mia could hear it. Frank's voice had always sounded like excuses to me. Mom's mental health evaluation showed what we already knew: she'd been slipping for years, hiding it behind control and manipulation. She entered a treatment program in Montpelier under court order. The restraining order remained in effect. The officers assured us she wouldn't be allowed within 100 feet of us for a very long time. Mia cried when she heard, but not out of regret. She cried because she finally understood how much weight she'd been carrying and that she didn't need to carry it anymore. "She's still my mom," she said softly. "But she's not, well," I wrapped my arm around her. "And her healing isn't your job." "I know," she whispered, leaning her head on my shoulder, "but I hope she gets better someday." I did too, but I no longer felt responsible for fixing her. 2 months later, the case concluded. The bank pressed charges only for the forged documents, not against us, but against the adults who had orchestrated everything. Because Mia and I were the victims, not participants, we were spared the legal fallout. The bakery went into bankruptcy. The house was repossessed, and for once, none of it fell on my shoulders. As spring tugged the snow back into the earth, I returned to my own life in Burlington. My apartment felt smaller than I remembered, but lighter too. The silence wasn't suffocating anymore. My savings grew slowly. My job became fulfilling again without the relentless financial strain. I upgraded my car, nothing fancy but mine, bought with my own money on my own terms. The simple act of turning the key felt like freedom. Mia found a studio apartment downtown. The first time she showed it to me, she was glowing, proud, steady, a little scared, but finally living on her own. "I never thought I could do this," she whispered. "You always could," I said. "You just needed space to see it." We visited Mom once at the program behind glass, supervised professional eyes watching everything. The woman sitting across from us wasn't the mother from Christmas morning, not the woman pounding on the cabin door, not the manipulator who had threaded guilt through every corner of our lives. She was quieter, smaller, and for the first time she looked at us without expectation. "I'm sorry," she said. Just that. Not an excuse. Not a story. Not a plea. A real apology, thin and shaky, but real. Mia sobbed. I held her hand, and for the first time I didn't feel like I owed anyone anything. We left with the door clicking shut behind us, the sound final, in a way that didn't hurt, just closed. Life didn't become perfect. Healing rarely looks cinematic. Some days were heavy, some memories still stung. Some nights Mia called me scared she'd turn into our mother somehow. Some mornings I caught myself bracing for a crisis that never came. But we were moving forward slowly, steadily, deliberately. One warm April morning we returned to the cabin to pack up the last of our things. The snow had melted away, leaving patches of wet earth and the smell of pine drifting through the open windows. Birds called out from the trees. Light spilled across the floor in bright ribbons. Mia stood in the doorway, hugging her sweater around herself. "Do you think we'll ever come back here?" "Maybe," I said. "Maybe when we're ready." She smiled faintly. "It saved us, didn't it?" "In its own way," I replied. "Yeah." As we loaded the last box into the car, Mia paused, looking out at the quiet clearing. "Ava," she said softly, "do you ever regret leaving that night? At 2 in the morning when you just walked away, I looked at the trees golden with morning sun." "No," I said. "I regret waiting so long to leave." Mia nodded, her eyes glistening. She climbed into the passenger seat. I closed the trunk, took one last look at the cabin, and slid behind the wheel. The road stretched ahead, winding between the trees like an invitation. This time the future didn't feel like something I had to survive. It felt like something I got to choose. And choose it I did, with boundaries, with clarity, with a sister who had walked through hell with me and come out someone stronger. As we drove away, I thought of that Christmas morning, the blank card, the laughter, the insignificance I felt in a house that was supposed to love me. But if they hadn't shown me my worth meant nothing to them, I might never have learned how much it meant to me. Some endings don't feel like losses. Some endings are openings. And some endings, especially the ones you choose, are the beginning of your real life. If you've ever had to walk away from someone you loved for the sake of saving yourself, tell me in the comments. And if this story meant something to you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay with me for more stories where women find their strength even in the darkest moments.